Hello viewers, welcome to my channel Pharmacypedia. In this session, we are going to discuss about the parenteral products part 1. In the part 1, we will be discussing about the parenteral products, types of the parenteral products, advantages and disadvantages of the parenteral products, and what are the requirements for the parenteral products. So my dear students, first let us try to understand what do we mean by the parenteral. Parenteral basically refers to the injection types of the dosage forms. So the word parenteron has been derived from the two words para and tron. Para means outside and tron means intestine. So it is a route of administration which is other than the oral route. Normally we use the oral route, but in some cases it is very beneficial if we use the parenteral routes. Parenteral routes have specific requirements for their manufacturing. We shall be discussing all the characteristics of the parenteral products. So when we talk about the parenteral products, there are several routes of administration for the parenteral injectable products. For example, intravenous, intramuscular, subcutaneous, intracerebral, intradermal, intraarterial, intraarticular, peridural, intracardiac, intracisternal, intrathecal. So these are the various routes for which there are different sites for the usage. For example, when we talk about the epidural, it needs to be injected into the dura mater, which is the epidural space of the spinal cord. Intravenous means it has to be injected into the vein. Intramuscular means injected into the muscles. Subcutaneous means for the fatty layer under the skin. Intradermal refers to the injected into the top layer of the skin at a slight angle. Intracardiac means targeted for the heart. Intraocular for the eyes. Intrathecal refers for the space surrounding the spinal cord. Intraarticular, it has to be injected to the joints. So when we try to understand the different sorts of the preparations which are being administered through the intravenous routes, through the injectable routes, these are the 5 preparations. These are the 5 different types of the preparations which are being administered to the patients by the parenteral routes. The first is the solution forms, second is the suspension forms, third is the injectables, fourth emulsions, and freeze-dried forms. So when we talk about the solution form can be into 2 types, or aqueous system and non-aqueous system. Aqueous system comprises of the ionizable electrolytes and other substances. Non-aqueous systems comprises of the non-polar compounds. Aqueous system have the advantage of being physiologically compatible with the body tissues, whereas the non-aqueous system basically relieves from the degradation reactions. The main disadvantage associated with the aqueous system is that the degradative reactions such as hydrolysis, oxidation, decarboxylation, and racemization takes place fast. Whereas the disadvantage associated with the non-aqueous system is that we feel a lot of viscous and it is very difficult to administer, and there is also the more pain is being felt out at the site of the injection if we use the non-aqueous solutions. When we talk about the emulsions are basically the heterogeneous dispersion of 2 liquids which are immiscible to one another. The droplet size is around 1 to 5 microns. So the density difference between the 2 phases is kept as low as possible. Now one needs to add on the emulsifying agents like lecithin, gelatin, methyl cellulose. Now parenteral emulsions are occasionally rare because it is necessary and difficult to achieve the stable droplet of less than 1 micron to build the emboli in blood vessels, which is difficult to prepare for such a preparations. Therefore, they have the limited use and they are mostly administered through intravenous and intramuscular routes. Dry powders, we actually have the dry powders since they have more intrinsic instability, they have more intrinsic stability than the liquid forms. So the solid residue which is being left after the freeze drying process is known as the dry powders. They have the uniform mixture, texture, and they have sufficient strength to prevent the crumbling during the storage. So in a simple term, you can say they are more stable than the liquid forms. Therefore, dry powders are being preferred and they can be just made into solutions before just administrations. And the rate of thermal and vapor transfer during the drying, rate of solution formation concentration during the reconstitution can be monitored out. So the percentage of the solid in the solid plug is around 7 to 25%. They are ready to be used. They need to be reconstituted just before the administration, but they have better stability. Now let us try to understand the advantages associated with the parenteral system. Parenteral system is the fastest method for delivering the drugs. So it is one of the preferred method in the case of the emergency situations. It can provide the fluids, electrolytes, nutrition to the patients who can't take the food or have other serious problems with the gastrointestinal tract. Moreover, it provides a higher concentration of the drug to the bloodstream. It is more advantageous since it is able to provide a continuous amount of needed medication in the case of intravenous infusions. Moreover, the rates can be adjusted and it provides more or less medication as the situation dictates. The drug action can be prolonged by modifying the formulation. So it is one of the best method which is being used for the emergency situations, and it is having the fastest absorption method. Now, there are certain limitations associated with the parenteral products. They sometimes call the traumatic injury from the insertion of the needle. Moreover, they have the chances of insertion of toxic agents, microbes and pyrogens. They also since they have to be injected directly into the body, so therefore correct syringe, needles and technique is required for the dosage form. They also have the chances of causing the scarring and other skin changes, and also sometimes can influence the drug absorptions. The very first limitation which is associated with the parenteral dosage form is that it is impossible to retrieve if the adverse reactions occur. This is the main limitation. You cannot reverse the action once the drug has started acting upon. Now, before understanding the pre-formulation factor, before actually going for the formulation study, we need to understand the pre-formulation factors. For the parenteral product, it is very important for the formulation scientist to understand the structure, pH and purity of the drug substance. Apart from that, the effect of the buffers, ionic strength, pH range and temperature has to be studied out very well. The physicochemical interaction of the drug substance with the excipients and the stability testings have to be done thoroughly so that the mechanism of degradation, the degradation pathways can be explored, and the packaging material testing, container closure, integrity system have to be checked out very well before going for the actual formulation studies. Now, there are certain general requirements which we have to abide when we have to prepare the parenteral products. The first is the stability. The stability of the parenteral preparation is very important. The physical as well as the chemical stability of the parenteral preparation must be maintained during the storage. Apart from the stability, they should be completely sterile. There should be complete absence of the microorganisms. The parenteral preparation should be completely free from all types of the microorganisms. For that, they need to be manufactured into the aseptic conditions, and aseptic conditions are required to be maintained during the preparation of the parenteral products. The parenteral products must pass the test for sterility. Apart from that, they should be completely free from the pyrogens. Pyrogens are the substances which causes fever. They should be completely free from the toxins and the pyrogens. Therefore, it is mandatory to carry out the pyrogen test, because contaminated parenteral product otherwise causes rise in the body temperature after its administration. Apart from that, they should be completely free from the foreign particles. The parenteral product should be free from the foreign particles such as dust and the fibers. To ensure this, parenteral products have to comply with the clarity test. They should be completely isotonic with the RBCs. The parenteral preparation should be isotonic with the blood plasma and the body fluids. Otherwise, what will happen in both the cases, hypotonic situation and hypertonic situation, the RBCs are not able to maintain the tonicity. So, it is very important in order to avoid any sort of the complications on the administration of the parenteral product. Then the next important factor is the specific gravity. The parenteral products are meant for the intraspinal injection, should have the same specific gravity as that of the spinal fluid into which they are to be injected. So, this is an exceptional requirement for the intraspinal injections. Apart from the chemical purity, the parenteral product should be free from chemical impurities, or it should be within a certain limit as specified in the individual monograph for the preparation of mentioned in the pharmacopoeias. So these are the general requirements. When we talk about the vehicle requirement for the production of the parenteral product, the very first thing which comes into the mind is the water for injection, or it is the first choice, water for injections. When we talk about the sterile product, we have another choice, sterile water for injections. It should be free from the ions and the carbohydrate. There should not be any sort of the bacterial contamination. Nowadays, the bacteriostatic water for injection is the sterile water for injection containing one or more bacteriostatic agents. So three types of vehicles are being used: water for injection, sterile water for injection, and bacteriostatic water. When we talk about the additives, we use a variety of additives for the preparation of the parenteral product, which ranges from stabilizers, wetting agents, suspending agents, emulsifying agents. Since we are using not only the solutions but also emulsions, suspensions, we need to have these agents incorporated into the formulation of the parenteral product. So examples include chelating agents like EDTA, or like wetting agents like 2,in-80, sorbitol trioleate, suspending agents such as acacia gelatin, etc. Apart from that, we also need to have the buffering agents. They are required to maintain the intended pH. pH is very critical to be maintained while for the administration for the parenteral products. So we use buffering agents like acetone, citrates, phosphate buffers, etc. Apart from that, we also include antioxidants. So for the oxygen sensitive drugs, to avoid the degradation, we use the antioxidants. For example, sodium bisulfite, formaldehyde, acetone, thiourea, EDTA, etc. Then we use antimicrobial agents. These are the substances which are added up, also known as preservatives, for the prevention of the microbes in the multiple packaging. For example, phenols, chlorobutanol, etc. Apart from that, tonicity contributors are required because we want the formulation to be isotonic with the plasma. For example, sodium chloride and borax. So these are the components of the formulation additives. Apart from that, it is very important to understand the importance of the isotonicity. When we have the isotonic solution, then the RBCs and the plasma remain in their tone, in their original tone. If we have the hypertonic solution, the RBCs will shrink. If we have the hypotonic solution, it will swell out. So in order to maintain, the solute concentration has to be in a certain ratio, and it has to be equal to the solution outside the solute. So solute concentration in both the phases, in the plasma and into the RBC, has to be in a balanced state. So isotonicity becomes very important while we consider the formulation of the parenteral preparations, because the possibility that the product may penetrate the RBCs and cause hemolysis, which is greatly reduced if the solution is isotonic with the blood, that is maintaining their tone. So for maintaining the isotonicity, we generally use the sodium chloride and borax. Thank you so much everyone for watching my video. Please do like, share and subscribe to my channel Pharmacypedia for getting further updates. Also, please view other parts of the parenteral products part 2, which shall be covering the remaining contents. Thank you so much everyone.